Welcome to this Q&A, the last of this retreat or time together. So we're picking up on some of the questions that were asked previously that we haven't got to. Yeah. So hopefully they're helpful for you. Some of them are more about engagement out into the world. Yeah. Or, engagement with the kind of rough and tumble of our practice. So the first that we thought to pick up on is this question: it's difficult to find a balance between discipline and self-love. E.g., waking up early brings about a lot of resistance. What would you suggest? Maybe Ajahn would like to start with that.
Yeah, well, quite a few things bring up resistance. Somebody sent me this lovely bag of chocolate-covered coffee beans, and you just put one in your mouth, and then things start happening, and you realise half a bag is gone. Oh, what happened there? It's how did that happen? And then, oh dear. So yeah, there's a lot of ongoing need for that awareness and thinking, do I have to be kind of totally, rigid, Stalinist, hair blanket, kind of hair shirt? Kind of give myself a break sometime, like lie in just once now and then. Do I have to have this constant nagging, get up, get on with it thing going? And it's, you find your way, really. You find your way, because you can't do it with the inner tyrant. The inner critic can't really find that balance. The inner critic can't find it. You had to find it, I guess, like all of us, we find it by going imbalanced one way, imbalanced another way, imbalanced. No, oh, about there. Yeah, and that's feel good. So you look at the results of, you did that, but actually that compulsiveness, that even if it was kind of fairly harmless, lying in bed a bit, you feel the sense of you're kind of trapped in it. You've got no, you're kind of, it's got you. It's got you. Whether it's compulsiveness to, sort of lie there, or to eat more, or to go to the next thing on the surf, browsing the net, click, 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 click. How did an hour go, because I was just enjoying myself. It was kind of nice, but escape. I was escaping. And how does it feel? It's kind of vacuous. Loss of center. So I think even in the waking up bit, in the beginning of the day, like even before you get up, try to find your center. Give yourself, 5 minutes or so, just lying there and, feeling your body. I'm not saying you've got to get up, just you are awake, or you have woken up. Just, how's the body now? Take a few breaths. Get the eyes open. Yeah, often you feel fuzzy and groggy. A few more breaths. Move a little bit. And get the sense of, I suppose, what we're looking at really in some ways is a good parent. Being a good parent to ourselves. Say, come on, okay. Let's get up. Yeah, I know. Yeah, come on, we can, just that gentle rather than slap, slap, slap. And that with a lot of things, the good parent to one's self is a nice image to have in mind. To me, that's when discipline is a kind of love, because if you don't restrain, you're not going to feel good. If you don't bring forth effort, you're not going to feel good. So bring forth effort, just a little bit. Restrain, just a little bit. You can do it. That kind of coaching. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, that, it is a tricky thing, as I was saying the other day, where is the middle, where's this place of balance? And I certainly know myself, I'd really love there just be a clear line and I can follow that, but it's a ongoing reflective process. So one thing I'd say is to trust the resistance, and really inquire into it. If waking up brings resistance, what are we waking up into? Yeah. So to really have a look at that, so that it's, the coming into the day feels all right. Because I just see sometimes this, what seems like lack of discipline, is actually something else going, hey kid, something's not for your well-being. And particularly, out in this world, the pressure can be enormous. Yeah, most people I know are chronically stressed and chronically tired, and so maybe there's something there that also needs attending to. That the resistance is actually that this being needs better looking after. It doesn't need treating with views about what the practice looks like. Yeah. To come back to that sense of being willing to attune, find your way, and it would be so much easier if there was just, if I do this, I'm practicing in the right way, but it doesn't work like that. We're constantly in a reflective process, and it has to be guided by love and compassion. So, and then there's times for making effort, yeah. It's not that we're not with that, but it's to be making the effort from the right place. So that would be my sense for myself. If I'm waking up every morning and there's resistance, I'd be going, what am I not wanting to go out into? Is there something that I need to either pick up differently or have happening differently? And often it's about how we're picking things up, isn't it? That we go out into the world and we lose our connection with ourselves, and that's so painful. So how do I take the whole of me into the next thing? So as you're saying, Ajahn Sucitto, really coming into the body is really helpful for that. Actually, I have this whole funny thing about bed yoga, in a way, letting the body wake up in bed, rotating ankles, stretching the feet, just that sense of actually really coming into connection. And it feels so beautiful, yeah. Done my yoga practice, been lying down all the while. Yeah. And the yoga was about actually coming into union, coming into union with breath and body and awareness, So just a few thoughts, different ways we can work with this ongoing inquiry, I guess we all have. How to find this middle. So maybe there's another question that kind of fits into this whole inquiry that we thought to pick up on, and both Ajahn Sucitto and I have been talking about it, but we thought it's so important in this practice to come back to it. Would you please say more about failure as a shadow side of success in our Dhamma practice? I think about my failed attempts at right speech in the midst of a sometimes very frustrating workplace. How do I work with this desire for skillful speech without turning it into a pass-fail endeavour? And we're in this territory where the tendency to evaluate. Are we good? Are we bad? Is it right or is it wrong? And soon as we set up this polarity, we're really in trouble. Yeah. And what's tricky, we pick up this ethical training, the precepts, and how do you pick them up in the spirit they were intended as a reflective training rather than, an injunction, like a commandment, yeah? And to really to pick things up and be able to evaluate. Yeah. And the evaluation always has a sense of, well, what have been the results? I said this, what was the result? What was the result there? What was the result here? Was it in line with my movement to harmlessness? And if not, then there's probably been harm here that needs to be met with compassion. There may be harm there that needs meeting with compassion. Yeah? So rather than a kind of external judge, this sense of some external being seeing everything we do and deciding if we're okay, it's to actually come into this aspiration we have to live well, to live skillfully, to live out of compassion and friendliness, and really bring that into our own way of relating to ourselves. There is no failure. Yeah. They're just reflective moments where we can reattune to what is most important to us. And as I said, in a Q&A days back, that lovely sense in the training that the Buddha would say, it's growth in this Dhamma and discipline to recognize when we've gone astray and to acknowledge it. So that we just upright the mind again. And, and come back into connection with ourselves. We can, it can be so harsh, can't it? Right speech, the amount of meditation we think we should do. I know people who go on retreat. First time they've ever been on retreat, at the end of it, they decide they'll meditate 1 hour every morning, 1 hour every night. And within about a week, if they're lucky, they've failed at the whole practice. Yeah. Wow, that was a really harsh thing to do, to set up some unrealistic sense of what is possible that wasn't in accordance with conditions. Yeah. So we can do that with how much meditation we need to do. We can do that with where speech has to be, and not really be reflective and in tune with what's possible. So sometimes, we could have said it differently and we wish we had, but we come back to the intention. Yeah. There's no intention to hurt, no intention to harm. Next time I know that I have to be more careful with that. Yeah. And then we drop it. Yeah. Because it can be so painful, can't it? We have these beautiful aspirations, and then in the rough and tumble, other things happen. Yeah, so that's why this practice really, has to be picked up with compassion. Given out of compassion, received with compassion, practice with compassion. Yeah, that would be my response. Ajahn, how do you work with this? That sense of, oh, I said the wrong thing.
I wish I knew. It's well, okay. I'm working with it. Just to, obviously I agree with what Will is saying, so I'm trying to find another way of putting it. And My suggestion is, if we look at like speech, there's always some kind of intention, isn't there? There's some sort of, I wish to communicate something, I'm saying something, you know. Now, sometimes that intention is so reactive that we really have no real say over it. It just throws out. Don't have a clear, conscious intention. We just have a jump of reactivity. And unfortunately, quite a bit of speech is conducted in that way. You know, people expect an immediate response. Blah, 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 blah. So it's a very fast tennis match. If you do that, pretty soon somebody's going to throw a wrong ball into the net or into you, because that's what happens. Even if people even joke, suddenly doesn't land in the right place. You think, oh goodness me, that was a bit of a goofer. you know. So now, because what's happening is your intention is kind of very much on the verbal process and on, you know, it's on the details, particularly the topics. I want to communicate this to you. You know, it's on the topic. So it's a tight kind of an intention. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of got a, and your attention is very much on that. So everything's quite tight. And we're very much concerned with the topic and getting those words out. Now, if you communicate to somebody else, what's missing? There's the words, there's a topic, there's a wish to communicate it. What's missing? The other person. A real awareness of the other person, isn't there? We could, oh, he's sitting there, go, oh, he's the so-and-so, I'll go and tell it to him because you are this. Oh, there's the cook, I'll go and tell her that. Oh, there's the engineer, I'll go and tell her that. You know, duh. Number, name, say it. And quite a lot of the time, that's what happens, you know. And so if we just kind of realize that's just seeing people as objects is a source of, oh, you know, it's uncomfortable or it's really painful. It's the beginning of some kind of abuse, unfortunately, without intention even. So, you know, and also you've really lost touch, one loses touch with the empathy that should be there. If you're going to communicate to somebody, then really you want to get them or something there in some kind of focus. What's the focus for to be with another person? Some kind of agreeable feeling, isn't it? Some kind of empathy. Otherwise, you're not going to talk to a brick wall. You know, you've got some feeling that there's a being there who I could, you know, transmit to. So there's some sort of sympathy. Have you got it? Is it there? There as an idea, maybe, but as a real experience. Now, if we make our intention to communicate less, just somewhat on the words, obviously, but not 100% on the words, just maybe 70% on the words. You know, I don't know if you can mediate this, but just a lot, not having to get every word right. Because if we're into communication, the other person can say, did you mean this or did you mean that? We can work it out together. You don't have to get it right on the first shot. You can fumble a bit and they'll say, what? Could you say more? And then actually that's good, because then you really get, you both participate in that communication. Yeah. So a little less intensity on that intention to get your words out, even if you mean well with them. And so widen your attention a little bit to, am I in my body now? You know, is it really here? And then another person then. That reminds me. I want to say, yeah, it's the just stop. And you know, feel what's happening when you see the person you want to say something to, and let's just pause, breathe out, and then okay, wind a little bit, and let's take it steady. You know, negotiation of contact. Excuse me, can I have a word with you? Is this okay? Is this the right time? Right, yeah, the communication. Yeah, sure, try it. You know, so it's a little bit of first knock on the door. And then maybe start with, it seems to me that maybe I'm feeling, we'll say these few things, you know, a little bit more, less crystalline data, you know, a little bit more on the way that the data is transferred. And then we're to learn it, because it's indeed very, very sad when one realizes, one has hurt or confused or interfered or meddled or, other people, and you just feel so ashamed of yourself that you don't want to, you really want to try and get it right. But remember, trying to get it right often narrows your attention. So you get really tight around it. I want to make sure I get every word right. No, that's not the samma. Partly the problem is the word samma. We think samma vajja, right speech. That's not a bad translation. But right, samma, means more like whole. Speech that is full, that takes in me, you, and the mode of how we're talking. It covers the whole thing. It's holistic speech. See, a holistic, yeah. That's a way of considering all the aspects of the path. Remember Ajahn Sumedho saying he had this problem with walking, and he said, I really must be really mindful of my foot, because he's got a swollen foot when he's walking barefoot on arms around, and clunk, he hits something. Oh, you idiot, Sumedho, you should be trying to be more mindful. I really got to be more mindful. I must try. And he kicked something again because he was trying so hard to be mindful. His receptivity dwindled. He says, I really got to try and be more mindful. I hurt my foot. Bang, he did it again. Because your intention's too tight. And we have a lot of, there's almost a loss of confidence that you have to get it right. And he's got it right. No, look, have confidence that if there is empathy between you, it will find its own way. And you won't be you won't get this right and wrong feeling. There'll just be, then there's no failure, no success. Things just work smoothly. And everybody's, it's finished, it's done.
Yeah.
I say it's like,
yeah. So, as you're saying, getting the kind of intention right, so critical, isn't it? I know, when I was working in Melbourne and having to go into a really complex workplace with lots of people and all this urgencies, what I found really helpful was to, as I was driving in, to be running all the team, we had this big dynamic team, through my consciousness, through my heart, with a sense of just, may they be well, and just attuning a little to in a way, the pressures they were under in their lives and work, yeah? So it really helped then if someone came in and they were snappy, not to be snappy back. Oh, okay. It seemed to help me stay a bit more cool. And then there are times when you don't, and you have to go, well, yeah, what's it like here too? But to really have our intention really massaged, as you were saying, is helpful. Mm-hmm. We're having ways of doing that for yourself. So let us keep with the flow of these. The next question is about, maybe I read it. In the present day state of affairs and the easy sharing of information, I've developed an addiction to Dhamma talks, videos, books, articles from many teachers, that although mainly in the Theravada tradition, nevertheless I noticed it takes away from the practice in the moment to notice the mind's whereabouts and also to meditate. It seems like a noble addiction, but I'm thinking that it's linked to a lack of desire for practice, either for meditating or in the moment, since the mind is again looking for fulfillment outside itself. How to deal with that addiction and or the fueling of desire for practice. Yeah. So maybe I'll say a few things and pass over to you, Bhante. Yeah, it is a tremendous amount out there, yeah? And particularly at this time where so many people haven't been able to come into groups together, into contact, into retreat centre, being able just to come into a more embodied relationship with the practice. There's been stuff pouring out from everywhere, yeah? And how do you meet that? And how do you navigate that? And it seems that, I hear in that a lot of reflection and awareness, yeah? That sense that actually it is about being here. Yeah, it is about taking what's taught, what's pointed to, and actually bringing it into our own chitta. And it's another of these kind of middle things. It's a reflective process. Hearing teachings, engaging, reading can really feed and fuel and support our willingness and our capacity to be here. And then when you notice they're taking us away, you go, oh, maybe that needs to be slowed down, yeah? to be more discerning. And there's so much anxiety and agitation out there that there is something skillful about keeping the mind in contact with what is beautiful and good, which we can do through listening to teaching. Yeah. So it's better than doing other kind of things to get away from the agitation of the mind, I would say. It's a skillful place to place the mind, have the heart attuning. And then, but in the end, the work is about being here, understanding this chitta and the ways, what ways we do dukkha. Yeah. So to be aware of that and to start inquiry. Why am I giving my power away? My waking up power, my power to know for myself. Why am I thinking it belongs somewhere else? And a lot of the structures can make it seem like it's somewhere else. So to me, part of our work is to take back our understanding that there is only one place and only one time to wake up, and it's here and now. And even in the time of the Buddha, people would want to be knocked on the head with a stick by him and woken up. But even a Buddha couldn't do that. A person had to do the work for themselves. So really, I would say we've all heard enough on some level. Yeah. We've heard the Four Noble Truths. We've heard about the path of practice. We understand Sila Samadhi Panya. So anything else we hear is really just about having something that resonates with our love of practice, our love of the Dhamma, a desire to wake up. It's not like you have to get anything else, hear anything else. In my experience, the teaching, the teaching's been given, yeah, but it's to be embodied. Just some thoughts on that. You're probably where you haven't got all this stuff flooding in the same way.
Well, yeah. I think it's said that in listening to a Dhamma talk, that all the 7 factors of enlightenment should appear if you really listen to it. So it's listening and gobbling. It's like one can just gobble things for a certain stimulation effect, or just to get more information, or you can take a bit and take it in deeply, and that's probably a slower process. So if you find yourself stuffing, then okay, maybe that's a good direction to go in. better than stuffing yourself with other things. Perhaps just take it more slowly and reflect upon how it's affecting you, the teachings, how it's affecting you. I mean, I think I would just qualify. I think that sometimes there are particular little skillful means that can be communicated after one's got the basic theme, some little tips, coaching from people who have more experience or somewhere or another. So you can pick up bits, and you can also pick up inspiration. That is, oh yeah, I'm hearing, as you were saying, hearing the same thing again. Oh yeah, I remember, resonating. Oh, he gets that too. Oh right, I get that. So there's that sense of another level of Dhamma transmission is just the empathy in the sense of, oh yes, that gets me. Not really the information, it's the sense of hearing that tune, if you like, and finding that pattern fits your pattern. So that's precious. It's not information so much, it's just finding a place where your citta is kind of fitted. It's been given back to you, because it's often thrown out. So careful transmission can help that place. But all the time in listening and in after a talk is finished, just to take some time to, where did that land? And as I've suggested, often you listen to a talk for 45 minutes or an hour, there might be 3 points in that were for you. The whole thing just felt nice, good, but there were maybe 3 points of information that you want to remember. And sometimes it's just brushes over. So you listen from your upright axis and open. And then what does come in is exactly the little bits of food that just help to fill that piece, or just open that bit up. So I think there's a skill in listening to talks, and it's true, there's a lot out there. One can get kind of, gobbling.
Yeah. When having to live within a society that seems to worship ownership and personal gain, how can one protect oneself without becoming distrustful, stingy, and closed off to people? Okay. Would you like me to read it again?
Yeah, please. I'm trying to relate to that. Yeah, I understand that's the world. Yeah.
When having to live within a society that seems to worship ownership and personal gain, how can one protect oneself without becoming distrustful, stingy, and closed off to people?
Well, one must be owner of one's own intentions and citta. There's nothing else to own, really. There isn't any ownership. The emphasis on ownership already throws things off balance. But of course, if people are making a big deal out of they got this and they got that, and this is fantastic, that's fantastic, and all that kind of thing. What they got? They got a lot of glitter, a lot of bling. What they call it, bling. Just glitter and shimmy and sheen. There's no flavour in it. The only thing you can get, if that's the right word, is your own heart. Or to retrieve it, and you want to take it out of that grabbing world ownership. If somebody wants to own you, your boss wants to own you, then you say, you want to be careful of those contracts that you don't, you're not ownable by anything or anyone. It's impossible. It's not just being hard. It's just it is impossible. can't be done. So you need to make that clear to yourself. And what is it, in a way that it really cannot be owned. And that's the most precious thing. That's the most precious thing. It's your own freedom. So, yeah. I know, I mean, many of the languages and the psychologies of the world, that's what worldly means. It's going in the wrong direction. I don't mean everybody on the planet Earth's in the wrong direction, but there are these worldly currents. They're all about sweeping one out into realms that take you out of your own home territory, your own citta, and that's dangerous. Withdraw from that. Live simply. Live simply. The less you have to lose on that level. Modest. And so you can not get too concerned about that stuff, so you can focus on what really never leaves you. Everything else leaves you. There's something you don't own that you never lose either. It's your own citta.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? When we're meeting a world that has different currents, than the currents of the Dhamma. And I often just come back to that sense of the Buddha talked about practice being against the stream. Yeah, and it's hard when the river is rushing that way to be swimming this way. Yeah. But I find it helpful just to be really clear about that. Yeah. Practice is against the stream. So there is, means there's that the values that the kind of world is trumpeting are bound to be different from the values of the citta, the value of the heart cultivation. Yeah. Sometimes they line up. I'm fortunate I live in a place where the values around me, lots of the values around me, line up. Yeah. So that can bring some relaxation. Yeah. And so we try and live in spheres, and the world has so many spheres where there's not too much disjunction between our own citta, our own values, our own understanding of what's important and the world around us. But that can be hard, can't it? Yeah, to know and trust what we think is important. And I have this, lots of people talk to me about this in a way because they come from families that they're expected to be successful and have the signs of success. And they've chosen to put practice, Dhamma, service of the community, things related to the Brahma Vihara, love, compassion, at the center of their life. And that doesn't usually result in great material success. Yeah? And there can be a lot of judgment and criticism that comes if you're not meeting the values that your family hold or the people around you hold. So what I think is really protective is to have friends in the Dhamma. So it's not so lonely. Yeah? You have other people who value the cultivation of the citta, whose values are aligned with the spirit, not with the material. Yeah. And it just even one other person can make a huge difference. Yeah? Someone you ring up on the telephone and just stay in connection with, because it is really, can be really lonely, and then the heart starts closing. So to feel yourself in connection with us, with the stream of waking up. Yeah. And it's hard because we have to work, we have to engage in the world, so we have the requisites. We have housing, food, medicine, the things that keep the body alive and well. We have duties to our families. Yeah. So it's not like you can't engage, but to engage from what matters to you. Yeah. And to be clear that that may not look like other people think it should. So to have friends, friends become vital. That's to me how we, protect ourselves becoming from distrustful, closed down, stingy. We can resonate here, we can resonate with them. We keep heart with the whole thing. Yeah. We keep moving here with questions. The question here is, can you discuss skillful ways to relate to anger? My therapist has suggested that it's difficult for me to express anger, but my practice teaches me to let go, not take things personally. I can discern skillfully, I believe, with clarity a sense of what is right and wrong, but I don't necessarily get worked up by it. What is a skillful way to deal with anger? John?
Well, yeah, okay. Anger is a pretty natural energy that all creatures have to defend themselves. So sometimes anger is caused by the apparent manifestation of the sign of threat. One feels threatened. One's body feels threatened. One's life feels threatened. That which one holds dear feels threatened. One's project feels threatened. One's family feels threatened. One's emotional security feels threatened. So one gets angry, or this energy rises up, which is essentially a kind of like a defender. A defender. So the body powers up. So when it powers up, it loses empathy. That's the problem of it. Because in that mode, we're 100% in this, rather than mostly in here, but also some out there to pick up where you're at. I lose that. Let's come completely into this. All the energy is withdrawn into this, and then to power up. Dangerous stuff. It's all creatures do it for survival, but it's dangerous stuff. So we wanted to see. So what we're saying is, well, once it's there, then you've got the issue of you've got to sort of hold it carefully. You can't just can it. You've got to feel it in your body and sort of check, is anything really threatening? Can I almost come back to the center and feel the ground, so I'm strong? So this, you transmute your anger into just core strength, which means I take a stand on this. I'm not accepting that. I take a stand on this. I'm not accepting that. That's enough of this. So that's strong, or words to that effect. But it's not that, running out. So then we actually transmute our anger into strength. And sometimes that's, if you speak the truth, and the truth is, that's not acceptable to me now. I'm not going to say anything about you, what you are and what you should be. I'm just saying, this is not acceptable for me now. There's something about the clear, direct quality of truth that's got a power to it. That you transmute the energy of anger into that clear determination of what's true for you now. just how it is now. Now that may change in 3 minutes. Say, okay, okay, I see what you really mean. Yeah, we can look at that again. All right, okay. The threat signal is gone. And it's good to maybe be able to do that in a non-aggressive way. Just, sorry, that's enough for now. And say it again without get the heat flush. We also get something called righteous indignation, which is kind of similar. Look, this is improper behavior. I've told people 50 times. Can't you see what you're doing? Look, I mean, you're supposed to be a sensible adult, and you're behaving like, can't you see what you're doing? This is kind of righteous indignation, which isn't it? Somehow the idea is you've got to shake people into clarity. And I've done some of that. And a few Dhamma teachers have done that all right. Anyway, like I remember Ajahn Chah said a lot of anger, but he transmuted it, but it was potent anger. I've seen Ajahn Sumedho, bless him, he can certainly turn on the heat. This is not acceptable behavior, but righteous indignation. You think just back off. Yeah, but maybe just let's hear that again. Can we be a little more patient? A little more patient. Beings are confused. Beings do forget. Yeah. And so that sense of clarity, listen. Have you heard me talk about this before? Now you notice the way the Buddha would admonish people. And I imagine being admonished by a Buddha was a pretty hair-raising experience, when all that power came down the line at you. They say, misguided man, have I not told you? You think, this Dhamma is not for the purpose of gain, not for sensuality. Misguided man, this will be for your harm and suffering in the future, and for the harm and suffering of others. Misguided man, and then generally people hit the floor and, okay, sorry, Lord, but yeah, that's that energy. But the Buddha is kind of like laying on the line, this is improper behavior, and why? Because it will lead to your harm, lead to your defilement, it will lead you to a bad place. It's the righteous anger of a careful parent, and it's not just, feeling frustrated with everybody because you didn't get it, feeling frustrated and that kind of, it's just that beings are confused. Lay it down, tell them why, and show that you care. That's why you're saying it. So there's different ways in which we try to transmute this energy. You ever get angry, Willa?
I've been practicing getting angry, yeah, because it is an energy, yeah, and it's an energy that has a boundary to it, and it's very protective. And, in this question, the person's therapist is saying, well, you have, their view is this person has difficulty with it. And yeah, many of us were brought up where it was not okay to be angry. Yeah, particularly if you're in a female form, yeah. And so it's an energy we have to learn about. And in the monastery, the nuns had this whole, 7, 8 more years of working therapeutically with this really wonderful woman. And I remember one time she had us up going, no, and stamping our feet and putting up our hand and really feeling that energy. Yeah, no. You think, yeah, what it feels like if you actually come and embody that sense of no, this is not okay. Yeah. And so it's a really important energy of keeping the boundary, keeping things so that they're suitable. So it needs to be understood. So what is that energy that doesn't have hostility in it? Then it is protective. It keeps things safe. Yeah. but it's something many of us had to learn about. And she said to me, you need to feel your no so you can feel your yes. And I was like, oh, okay. So really exploring that energy rather than having a fear of it and thinking, oh, this is as Ajahn Sucitto saying, a kind of natural energy. I see the cat has it. There are all these cats here, yeah, and our little cat, one or another will come together and they'll go like this, yeah. And then they settle down again. You think, yeah, they're saying, hey, you take care. Yeah? So to understand it for what it offers and then to be able to get it so it isn't coming out of hostility. So that, and this is where in my practice, really getting so the mind has cultivated, the Brahma Viham metta, so that when something unpleasant happens, yeah, that the mind just doesn't fire into negativity, that channels, what they'd now say the neural channels, are actually to love, to opening, to trying to come into empathy with whatever is going on here and there, yeah. And we can do that through cultivation of these heart qualities, and we can do it by getting our mindfulness strong enough that when that energy starts rising, we understand it and we understand what it's telling us, yeah? It's something I've had to learn about. I remember one time, I was I don't know, kind of middling nun in the monastery, kind of senior nun at Chitters, and I had a week's retreat and I realized, oh, I have a new feeling going on in here, and it's kind of resentment. And it was, well, this is really unpleasant. Yeah. And to really come in and feel it. And the more I felt it, the more I understood. It was telling me something I needed to know. Yeah. That I hadn't been taking proper care of myself. That I'd been, in a way, focused out there, but not paying proper attention to what was needed here. Yeah. So I've got so more and more trust these energies. Everything is waking up, yeah. And so these energies are part of things we need to know. So to come out of fear around them and be able to hear what is said, but hear it by being able to hold it. So it's not just, what do you call it, just cascading out everywhere and bringing harm. To know it, understand it, hear the gifts it brings in terms of understanding where the boundaries need to be. That's what I would offer. Because if you've been brought up to told all the time not to be angry, yeah, you can get so you don't trust that energy. You don't, and we don't want anger that goes from skillfulness. It's no good. Yeah. But to be able to start to feel it in the body, know where it is, know when it starts to rise, because then you can be more attentive and mindful and go, okay, I need to slow down here. Yeah, so things don't start spilling out. But to have that capacity to be able to say, no, this is not all right, is really important. This is not for the well-being of this being. It's not for the well-being of other beings. It's not for the well-being of both. So that's the energy. If we just suppress anger, we don't have access to. So it's something to be understood and transmuted, as you'll say, Ajahn. Yeah. Should we keep with the flow? Next question. won't be time for all of them, but in becoming aware of the breath, is there a benefit to regulating it anyway? Or should we just concentrate on the natural flow of breath? I practice yoga, was wondering if you could expound upon the relationship between Buddhism and yogic philosophy. So even maybe the breath part of that. So, is there a value in regulating the breath, or should we just stay with the natural flow?
Yeah. Should I lead on this?
What was that?
Should I lead on this?
Oh, yeah, if you like. We've only got a minute each, I think.
A minute each. I like that.
Just a minute, just a tiny little minute.
It depends what natural flow is, really, because sometimes it's the fact that people don't have a natural flow and the breath is extremely constricted. But then my suggestion is you don't really do the breathing. You work on, if you're going to work on anything, you work on the physicality of the body, so helping to, don't mess with the breathing itself, just work on the physicality of it, of the body, and not too hard, And so softly you can get it, because if you try too hard, that tenses everything up. It's got to be a softening of the musculature and the belly and so forth. Stand, and he finds particular postures might be easier. Reclining, generally people find it, breathing relatively easy. Standing, and so be aware of the problem of witnessing the breath. It's strange how that action, because the action again can be done by this particular kind of intention and attention that I've talked about, which is restrictive. As soon as we've only got to get it, then tightens up. There's something exquisitely sensitive just about having that like 75% of attention, so it's quite wide and softer. That actually does, just putting that over the whole body, and wait until the breath comes to you. Don't hunt it, and then see where it feels most complete. It may not be complete, but see where it feels most complete, and bring that quality of soft, warm, appreciative attention to that place where it does feel okay, and then maybe it will start to trickle open a little bit more as you in over time. I think that's definitely more than a minute.
Yes, so just briefly, it's a valuable consideration, and as you're saying, Ajahn, in our practice, we're actually trying to come out of doing the breath, interfering with the breath, into this deep receptivity. Yeah? So if there are other systems of deliberate different kind of patterns of breath, and to really know the difference between those two is really important. For my part, we had Bhutek, all kinds of stuff flow through as ways of being with the breath, and I found that if I do too much of that kind of doing exercises of the breath, it starts to interfere with my capacity for receptivity. So it's something I just check out. There gets to be a habit of interfering. So, and some of you may be more skilled in keeping those two things. As one's a kind of exercises, one's a kind of present. Yeah. So that would be my little comment, just to make sure one wasn't leaking into the other and really impacting your capacity to let the breath be the breath, yeah. Loving, attuned. Yeah. So time is up. We should let you go to the next thing, everybody. And some of you will be back in 2 hours here, wherever here is. Yeah, and others of us will be, coming back together in later down the day. Yeah.
Wherever you go, take your here with you, wherever it is. Take it with you.
Yeah.
Bye for now. See you in a while.